Section 14-5, Linear Models Fitting a Straight Line. When two sets of data have a positive or negative linear association, you can use a special line called a trend line to show the association more clearly. A trend line is a line on a scatter plot drawn near the points that approximates the association between the data sets. So here we have a scatter plot, and you see the trend line that's been drawn. The trend line should be as close as possible to each data point. There should be about as many points above the trend line as below it. So this is a trend line passing through the center of the scatter plot. Let's look at part 1. Example, choosing reasonable trend lines. Which of the lines shown are reasonable trend lines for the scatter plot? Explain your reasoning. So you see the scatter plot here. Well, we definitely know I'm going to label this line A, because I don't think it's been labeled. This is line A. We definitely know that line A does not approximate the trend of the data well. It represents a positive association, which the data shows a downward trend. So this line is not a reasonable trend line for these data. So here you can see just the line A that I was talking about. Line A represents a positive association, while this data is shown going downward, showing a downward trend. So this line is not a reasonable trend line. So A would be no. So A is definitely no. All right, let's look at this line. Looking at this line, I'm gonna call it line B. Okay, so let's talk about line B. Line B, you see here, does not go right through the scatter plot. There's not as many dots above it as below it, so this line does not approximate the trend of data well. While it represents a negative association, just as the scatter plot does, it is not close to many points. So this line is not a reasonable trend line for these data. So line B again is a no. And then let's look at this line. This is line C. Looking at line C, here it is. This line represents a negative association and is close to many points. So it approximates the trend of data well and is a reasonable trend line for these data. So C would be yes. So I'm going to show you just line C in a graph. There it is, just line C. So you see it goes right down the middle of the scatter plot. There's many points above as below as possible. And it is very close to the points, and it approximates the trend very well. Therefore, there is a negative association. A negative association. So C was yes.